Okay, we're going to work on a little social studies. I'm still waiting for your posters. I only had 3 that were presented to me, so I would appreciate it if you could videotape your poster. I know it might be hard to get pictures. Maybe you could draw them, copy from the book, whatever. You try your best. Okay, we're studying about the Native American Indians. We've talked about 3 groups of people. We talked about the first group, which happened to be the Kiowa that lived on the plains. And you have a picture in your page 100 and 101. They lived in the tents made by the buffalo hides and the teepees, or wigwams, sometimes they're called wigwams, depending upon where they were. I think wigwams were more in the east or northeast, and the teepees were out on the plains. They hunted the buffalo. Then we had the people of the Southwest. These were the ones that lived in the cliffs or in the buildings made by mud, the homes made out of mud, the Hopi tribe. And then the other one was the Native Americans, the ones that built their totem poles, and they were the Tlingit, whatever. It's a very hard name to pronounce. It's called either Tlingit or Tlingit, and these were the ones in the northwest coast, sometimes as far as Alaska. And they were the fishermen. They were the ones that hunted the whales for their blubber. And remember, they were very conservative. They preserved. They didn't kill for the sake of killing. They killed because of need, not because of trying to make a lot of money and selling the blubber of the whale and the meat of the whale. They used it just for their own food and to keep them fed. All right, now we're going to be looking at page 108. And how do we know about these Indians? Because if you were to look at the Indians today, any one of these Indian tribes, and those that you're reading in your library books, you know that they live just as we do. They go to college, they're doctors, they're lawyers, they have regular homes, but basically they do have some kind of tribal, how should I say it? They still stick to their tribal ways as far as holidays and their own feasts, and even some of their own crafts. And that's how we know how these people lived, because of what they left behind, their culture, their artifacts. This is what people live behind. For example, we can look and see some of the things that were found by people today, archaeologists. If you were to go to downtown Miami, you could see where some of the Indians used to live. They have a special place where they've cordoned it off, and they show you, it's almost like a little Indian village that they have unearthed, which are hundreds and hundreds of years old. So let's look at some of the artifacts that we have here. An artifact is something that a group of people left behind, and usually had something to do with their environment, where they lived, how they worked, how they played, what they did for a living. And we can see over here that we have quite a few. Let's look and let's read about Native American artifacts on page 108. Okay, today most Native Americans live the way we do. Most do not build teepees or make shoes from animal skins. But some Native Americans from long ago left things behind. We call these artifacts. Now, if we were to go to the Miccosukee village, right here on Tamiami Trail, we would see things that Indians have made that represent their culture, their life, their lifestyle. We will see the beautiful skirts and blouses that the Indian women made, multicolored. We would see beadwork. And these women will wear their native costumes. Sometimes you might even find them in a grocery store if you lived off of Tamiami Trail. So it's not that these things are forgotten, and these things are sold in gift shops. Some of the work that they do out of clay and basket weaving, and if you were to visit any of these Indian reservations throughout the United States, there would be gift shops where people would show their products that they have made. Some of them would be very expensive because there's a lot of labor involved. It took months maybe to make a basket or a clay pot or a pair of moccasins. There's all the beadwork and so on. So let's look at some of the things that were made. Now you see the moccasins here. I have seen moccasins that were purchased at a gift shop, and if you were to look at it, they're all done by hand, these tiny, tiny little beads. Here is a pendant or necklace that is in the shape of a lizard, and it's made on a strip of leather. There's a basket here. Look how beautiful the basket is. Look at this is woven. All those pictures, the butterfly, the birds, and the plants are woven into the basket. So you had to know, it's almost like knitting. If you knit, if your mom knits or crochets, how you can knit a picture in what you're making. If you're making a scarf, you might knit a design or put initials, but it is their way of weaving, and also the beautiful blankets that they made. And this was made out of the dried grass or plants. And the pottery here, look at the beautiful decorations, the painting, and this was made from clay. And they were made to be waterproof as well because they used them also to carry the water. So things might not be perfect in the way they made things, but let's look and see what other things were made by Indians and how these artifacts are like things we use today. Let's go to page 109. It says, girls played with dolls. Isn't it amazing? We have girls today in 2020 that play with dolls, and even people who have collections of dolls. And little girls always want to play the mama, and they would make their own dolls. Now, both men and women wore beads, and these are the beads of the bracelets, and sometimes there would be a type of necklace worn around their neck. The bone tools were used for building and farming. Now here are the tools. This looks like it might break up the soil to plant. Some stone arrows were used for hunting. That would be put at the end of a stick, maybe tied up with a piece of leather, and that's how they would kill a deer, or they used it as an arrow. Stone balls were used to play games. So they played ball. Artifacts help us remember how the first Indians lived. And I'd like to tell you that many of our states are named after Indian words. For example, the word Alabama, that is an Indian word that means thicket clearer, meaning breaking away the bushes and brush. Alaska, a great land. Arizona, little spring. Arkansas, people who live downstream. The word Connecticut means long river. Illinois, great men. Kansas, people of the south wind. Massachusetts, large hill place. These are all states with Indian names and what they mean. Minnesota, sky-tinted water. Missouri, big canoe people. Nebraska, flat water. North and South Dakota, allies or friends. Ohio, beautiful or great river. Oklahoma, red people. Texas, friend. Utah, people of the mountains. So it's unbelievable that all of these states were named by Indians because that land had special meaning for them. Okay, so there is a poem on page 96 that I'd like to read to you, or you read to me, so that it's called Song of Our Homeland. Remember how the Indians recall their homeland? Woodland and seashore, desert dune, home to our people, many a moon. Grassland and hillside, long we roam, here in the land you now call home. Remember, this poem was written to tell you that this land was really theirs first. This was their home, and now we call it our home. We've taken it from them. Because how many Indians do you have on your block? How many Indians, American Indians, go to our church? Very few. So you know that their numbers have decreased. And we have completely taken over. People from Europe, people from South America, we have taken over this land that used to belong to the Native Americans.